I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all of the difference. Just around the next bend and over the next hill waits the road less traveled. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am your humble host, Mr. Dennis Carroll, and this is the Road Less Traveled, episode 14. We're going to be doing some weird, wild, and way out weather tonight. I hope we will. My co-host, Mr. Gerald Fountain, has been unconnected. Maybe he will be here shortly. And as soon as he gets here, I'll put him on the stage. There he is. There's Mr. Gerald Fountain right there.
Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just telling everybody we're going to do some weird, wild, and way out weather tonight.
Oh, yeah.
You ready to do it? Oh, yeah. It's been an interesting week. I hope everybody's having a great Labor Day out there. And I hope you've been knocking out some of the picnics and stuff. Have you had a picnic, Gerald?
We had hamburgers and stuff. We didn't really have a cookout, though, but we had hamburgers and stuff at home.
Darn, you should have called me. Okay.
Ah.
It is a little bit longer for me to get there, though.
Yep.
It might take me a while. That sounds good, though. I'm sorry I missed that. Absolutely. What you got going on? Have you got any shows coming up that you want to talk about before we get started?
There's always shows coming up. We got Wednesday night. We'll be doing the Night Owl Lounge, and coming up Thursday we'll be on the Castle Dudes, Neil Warden's show, and we'll be talking about time travel and space and dimensions. Ooh. And then Saturday night we got Geezer Geeks, our normal show with Robert Bauer and conspiracy music, and Jim Goodall's on there, and Terrence B from Australia. And then let's see, Sunday's our normal Piercing the Veil on the Midwest Night Watchers channel. Busy.
Oh, yeah. Sounds good. Sounds interesting. You always have some good shows, I know. And you do have a store now, is that right? You don't do like Sin Gooley say, I've got a store,
Yeah. Yeah. We had a lot of people asking for T-shirts and stickers and stuff. So I thought, you know what, I'll just see if I can't get that done. And Robert Bauer, my fellow co-host on Geezer Geeks, he already had his store set up 2 years ago, but didn't really do much with it. So I said, hey, let's fire that up and see if we can't make some merchandise. So that's how that all started. So it's on Mind Apparel.
We'll put that link up in a little while for you and talk about it again before the end of the show for some of the people who haven't got in quite yet. I want to say hello to some of the folks out there. Hello, Shiro, Gemini Moon, Crystal, Urso, and Demardia, and I hope I pronounced that right, Demardia, and Philip, and Phoenix. And let's see who else we got coming in. I got a little Kilroy in here.
All right.
And let's see. We got Anna.
Quite a few popping in.
All right. Yeah, starting to fill up a little. Absolutely. Roger Blair, Mary, and some other people coming on in. It's filling up a little bit. Yeah, definitely. Also, I would like to congratulate our dear friend Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress. She made 10,000 subscribers this week. That's quite a milestone. And
That
want to
is
really
fantastic.
congratulate. She's done a lot of hard work. She deserves that. She has really put a lot of herself into that, and she really deserves that. Definitely. So congratulations from all of us. Absolutely.
Well
And she
deserved.
has a store, War Woman Goods. If you want to check out Jessica's shop, it's on Etsy, I think. She has War Woman Goods, and she's got some very nice stuff on that. And she's thinking about. I think she's mentioned something about going to have another show on Mondays. I think she's going to get even busier.
Yep.
She's a busy woman. She's gonna definitely put more on her plate there. There you go.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, between all of her shows and, taking care of her family and also going out and being boots on the ground investigating. I mean, my gosh, I don't know how she has any time.
Yeah, that's what I told her there today. She definitely is not gathering any moss. She's a rolling stone. Absolutely. That woman stays busy on the go all the time.
Yeah, great guests and great subjects every week. Now it's going to be 3 times a week.
Yep.
I think 3 times, maybe more.
Well,
I
we
don't
got.
know.
Yeah, we got some weather coming up tonight, huh, Gerald? We're gonna be talking about some
Oh,
weird stuff. The weather. Here's the interesting thing about the weather. We're all affected by it. We live on this planet. We definitely are affected by it. And I saw just the other day, I wanted to save the video and show everybody, but I couldn't get it. But they were showing some of the lightning coming off of a volcano. It was amazing. Static lightning. It was just continuously lightning coming out of that. That's a lot of power,
right.
geothermal power coming out of something like that. It's amazing. The things that go on in this planet and how the weather affects our very lives and how it affects the food that we eat, the environment that we live in. It's important that we understand a lot of aspects, and that's why, of course, you have people who are weather forecasters and meteorologists always checking on the weather. It's very important that we know these things, especially during tornado season and hurricane season. It's very important. And, and that's like I told you before the show, what Mark Twain used to say about the weather. Everybody talks about the weather, but nobody does anything about it. But I think they're working on that too, by the way. I think they're working on
Well,
trying to manipulate the weather a little
maybe
bit, definitely. What do you
maybe
think?
maybe these guys got something to do with the weather.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Well, we've got a lot of pictures and video we're going to be showing tonight while we're talking about the weather. And we got some interesting video for some of you out there to watch and all that. And the weather. Since you're talking about the weather, and I was mentioning the ancient techniques of weather, the witch doctors that used to, supposedly control the weather. You had rainmakers. They went around, getting money for trying to make it rain when there was a drought. And of course, you have the age-old story of witches conjuring up windstorms and rainstorms. You've got a lot of sort of magical connections to weather. The weather has always kind of dictated our lives for us too, in a way. You wonder, like before you walk out the door in the morning, you always look at, is it raining or is it windy or should I put a jacket on today or what? You're always checking the weather. It's very important, and the weather
Right.
is part of us. It really is an important part of us. And although we ignore it sometimes, it's still there. And it's sort of like that 500-pound gorilla in the room. Sooner or later, you got to know it's there. You're going to have to really recognize it. And the weather is very important, definitely. And of course, without it, we would have less food to eat if we didn't, kind of predict it a little bit and understand when the frost was coming or rain was coming or whatever. It's very important that we kind of procrastinate on these things. prognostications for the weather are very important. But they have studied the weather is a science. Is that right, Gerald? I mean, it is a science.
Right.
One of the very first sciences, and there are even weathers. I don't know if people know this or not, but there are even some weather signs mentioned in the Bible. So the weather, the interest in the weather has been since day one with us. It's very important stuff.
Yep. I mean, where else can you go? On our planet, let alone the United States, where you can have weird weather between tornadoes, hurricanes, hail, frost conditions, or all that stuff. You can go from snow to sun in 24 hours in a lot of places in the US. Then you get affected by hay fever, by sinuses. It's all affected by the weather.
Oh yeah.
You could freeze to
It
death
does
or
affect our
die
life.
of heat in the United States alone.
Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of reports over the years, Gerald, and of course, and supposedly now with global warming, and I really don't know how much really true. I think some of this global warming stuff is politically motivated, but I won't get into that tonight. But there have been, a lot of very drastic changes back in the past. You've had ice ages, you've had volcanic eruptions that have, remember I've talked about this before, that one year that there was no summer.
Right.
And that happened because of a volcanic explosion. And it clouded the whole earth, and there was no summer. It was like frost was falling in July.
Yep.
And we don't know to this day how many people died because of that year without any summer. There definitely were some famines caused by it. And that's how much very important the weather is to us. It can make or break us. It can make us the difference between surviving or dying in certain circumstances, especially when it comes down to weather like, tornadoes, storms, hurricanes, stuff like that. You can easily lose your life in something like that, without a doubt. And people have, many times. And and I'm not going to get into this tonight, but there's a supernatural thing about supposedly there are demons that exist in the storms. People say they have heard voices and, inhuman cries in the storms. But people have been afraid of weather to a certain extent because, like I said, the weather can make it, especially if you were somebody like a farmer. The weather was very important. It could make you or break your crop, and it might be the difference between you living to plant another season or not, It was very important stuff. And so the weather has always dictated a lot of these things for us. But I think we've been fixated on the weather a lot, and we would love to manipulate it, definitely, without a doubt. If you had the power to make the weather the way you wanted it to, you would have immense power on this planet.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. My dad told me that his grandfather told him one time that it snowed in July when he was a kid.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that goes along with the volcanic eruption, or if it was the little ice age that happened in the 1800s, or.
Well, that day without summer, that year without summer, that was back about like 1829 or 30, something like that, because it was the very same year that Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley wrote Frankenstein, and it happened during that year without a summer. It was a very stormy year, very dark and brooding, spooky kind of a year, definitely, because there was a lot less sunshine and all that.
That would have been,
like I said, that was very bad. There have been other years like that because of volcanic eruptions. Not as bad as that one, maybe, but on a smaller scale that has affected certain areas because of it. I think that happened because, if I'm not mistaken, that was where that island blew up. The volcano just blew completely up on this island and put so much ash and dust in the atmosphere that for months and months it clouded out the sunlight from coming in. Um,
Right.
that was very interesting. That could happen again, Gerald. That could happen anytime. That's just not. It's not something in history. It's something that, and you've got the one in Yellowstone that they think could blow at any moment. Would probably do something like that again on that kind of a scale.
Well, look at what Mount St. Helens did.
Yeah, yeah. And that was a small one compared to some of the ones that went on in the past. And the film I was talking about earlier, I think, is a volcano in I think it was Greenland or Iceland, somewhere like that. That is starting to erupt a little more, and the heat and geothermal energy coming out of it makes it have a continuous lightning storm over it.
Right.
It's amazing to watch. But I think they've had a lot of that happen with Hawaii. The Hawaiian Islands have had a lot of problems with that in the past. Lava flows and all that stuff. And then, of course, a part of all this are earthquakes. Earthquakes are considered kind of like the weather, in that respect. They're looked upon that way. And earthquakes are a big thing, You can always have one of those somewhere. You never know. They can be anywhere. But they're very much like part of the weather of this planet. And I think without a doubt that some of these things can have some very low key, but still very valid connections. I have noticed that usually, whenever you have a big earthquake, you'll have another one somewhere else in the world not very long after that. It's almost as if the shock goes all the way through the planet. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the Titanic plates are all connected one way or another. So if you have movement on one side, something else has got to make room somewhere else. So that makes sense.
The energy's got to come out somewhere, right? Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. But then you got the weather and the clouds above us. You heard a lot about that, and we've talked a lot about it. And there is a certain amount of weather manipulation going on. You can see clouds and make it rain. You can seed it with dry ice and stuff like that. You can even produce fogs, and which will, if you produce a fog, supposedly it will also bring moisture to the ground, the surrounding areas around it. They can do that, So there is a certain amount of weather manipulation going on, and they have experimented in the past, and this is fascinating too, about setting off explosions in the eye of small hurricanes to disrupt that hurricane. Yeah, so there's some interesting things. There's a lot of study and scientific study going on with that. But like I said earlier, also a lot of suppose of this global warming. And you and I both know, Gerald, and since we're not that old as old codgers, but we've been around a while, okay, and we've been around the block a few times, okay. So anyway, we know. I think you know this without doubt too. The weather is not like it used to be to us. I mean, we can see a difference in what's going on in the world. Don't you agree with that?
I do. Me and Jane talk about it all the time. We think the sun is hotter. We think the sun and the moon has changed positions where they doesn't set and come up like it normally does. When we were kids, it's changed positions. Now, whether that's the pole shift or something else, but things are just strange these days.
Yeah, the magnetic poles are shifting. Supposed to be reversing, right?
The core of the Earth is supposed to be reversing.
Yeah, you got a lot of changes going on in the world, on this planet. Yeah, and it will affect the weather, definitely, when that happens. Just like with geomagnetic storms and sunbursts and all this stuff going on that affects our radios and TV. It affects our electronics. Probably affects us. So there haven't been a lot of studies on that, but I've often wondered if that does not have some type of effect upon, because we live in the radiation that it puts out. I mean, we're living.
Well,
It's getting to us. Okay, whether it has to come through the atmosphere or not, we're getting a certain amount of it. And I was
right.
reading this just the other day, that there is, a lot of people don't really realize this, but in space, you need to be shielded constantly because of the radiation that hits you. I'm talking about in outer space now. The radiation will kill you. You can't live out there long without living in some type of a shield against that. So radiation, whether you can see it or not, can affect you. And I think it can also affect us here on this planet, especially if the atmosphere grows thinner or the ozone layer gets messed up, whatever
Right.
the situation goes on with that. Yeah, we're gonna get the bad end of that deal. Definitely, I think.
Well, look at during full moons where you talk to any ER doctor or emergency team where they talk about full moon fever, where the gravitational tide of the full moon affects the humans. It seems like they all go crazy or activity starts ramping up during that time.
Oh yeah, I can vouch for that. Being in law enforcement, when it was a full moon, it was always crazy time. Yep. But it's amazing that the moon has such a gravitational pull on us. It makes the tides go in and out, and so it would not surprise me if it doesn't affect the blood in human beings, or it
Well,
doesn't affect our brain
we're
waves or
mostly
something.
made of water, so why wouldn't the moon affect us?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Wow, man's mom says it's a shift in the weather is causing all of this done by the big brother. Well, a lot of people talk about HARP and a lot of these chemtrails that you see supposedly in the sky and all that. I think there's a lot of weather manipulation tied in with this, and I think maybe some geomagnetic stuff going on too, because that's part of the thing. And there is a lot of interest and study in the atmosphere. And I was just reading the other day, I don't know if you heard about this, Earl. They have actually discovered an electrical field around the Earth that they did not know existed. They found this out the other day. They still don't know that much about it because it's a very new discovery. But it is
Right.
an electrical field that covers the whole Earth. And they
Absolutely.
never knew it was there until just recently.
The other thing, if you've ever noticed, and me and Jane talk about it all the times, every time they used to send up a space shuttle or rocket into the atmosphere, you could count the days. I think it was like 13 days or something that you start seeing a storm develop and come across the U.S.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of meteorology, meteors, which has got nothing to do with meteorology, by the way, but meteors could actually be considered the weather too, to a certain extent, because they can do things. Look at the Tuskegee explosion that leveled hundreds of thousands of acres of trees. That was thought to maybe have been a small comet exploding above in the atmosphere of the Earth itself. That could definitely affect your weather patterns, that kind of stuff.
Yep. Let alone crashing in the ocean and making a tidal wave or a tsunami.
As a matter of fact, tsunamis and all that stuff. As a matter of fact, we had a big fireball. Did you hear about that the other day? That went over like 15 states, and I think it ended somewhere in Kentucky or something. Is where it's supposed to fell. But it was a
Jane
huge
was up
fireball.
that night and saw the flash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was seen over like 15 states.
Yeah.
And that was just last week, wasn't it? Last week.
Yeah.
I believe it was.
Yep. Yeah, there's good footage all over the place of that. And we still need to search through ours and see if we caught it on our cameras or not.
Well, you got a lot of stuff like that going on up there. You got a lot of things. I think that are a lot of different factors that you have to take into consideration on things like that. And that's not just rain and thunder and lightning and snow or whatever. There's a lot of different components to all of this. It's fascinating stuff. I've always been interested in the weather. To me, it is really interesting. The patterns and the way that things, the winds and all that, how they can predict some of this stuff. Of course, back in the old days, you had to have the farmer's almanac. Here's a weird thing about it. A lot of people don't know this, but they used to predict a lot of the weathers with woolly worms. Remember those?
Oh yeah. We still kind of go by that. Persimmons and woolly worms. We call them woolly bears.
Yep. And they had a certain pattern to their coat, and you could tell when it was going to be a long winter, a short winter, a cold.
Right, depending on how thick and woolly it was, and how big the brown dark stripe was, and where it was on the worm or the caterpillar.
Mm-hmm. And that was how the farmer's almanac predicted a lot of winters with that. That's amazing to think about. Of course, I think they did some other stuff too, but that's one of the things they always considered.
Right.
Somebody catch a woolly worm here, and let's see what it looks like.
And you crack open the persimmons, and that's another one. People swear by that, and I've seen a lot of them where it's came true when people show what the shape inside the persimmon looks like.
And remember that old saying, red sky at night, sailor's delight, red sky morning, sailor's warning. And that is very true, by the way. That's the far off weather patterns and how they're affecting things. And a lot of these old weather sayings have a lot of truth to them, because there's been a lot of observation all these thousands of years. People have been watching this stuff, and they found out what the weather patterns were, without meteorologists too, by the way. But meteorologists are important, very important. Yeah, there's the farmer's almanac. We used to plant by that. You just had to see what the almanac said. You knew what to plant and when to plant, and all that, and it was just going to be too wet or dry or whatever the situation.
There's even a garden calendar that you go by.
But then you got regular weather patterns. You got the weather. You got regular weather, but then things get weird. Okay, sometimes things get a little strange with the weather. And there could be some outside factors. There could be some things that are manipulating that, they say there are some strange weather patterns during war times. And that makes sense when you think about it, because there's a lot of energy being put out, bombs going off, stuff like that would affect weather, definitely,
Right.
And just, I think, like maybe 10,000 some odd years ago was the last ice age. And it was a small little ice age. It wasn't a big one. And that wiped out a lot of species of animals, like the woolly mammoths and stuff like that. The dire wolves and all that supposedly died out because of different weather patterns. Maybe what happened with the dinosaur, for all we know. But that was supposedly got wiped out by a comet or something like that. But anyway, a lot of these animals that are no longer with us were the victims of weather. But you get some weird weather, just like, and they say that we're long overdue for another ice age, believe it or not. And a lot of people say, how can you say that when there's so much supposed global warming going on? But if you look at a lot of the stuff, like a lot of the different areas in the sea and all the stuff, global, you have to say the jury's still out on a lot of the global warming stuff, and like I said earlier, a lot of it is politically motivated. It's used for political purposes, I'll put it that way. So
Right.
you don't really know who or what to believe. You don't really know. But they say we're long overdue for another ice age.
Yep. I mean, the weather
If
changes.
according to the weather patterns,
it goes through cycles. I mean, we've had cold times, we've had hot times. I mean, how many times when we've heard, climate change and all of a sudden the weather gets cool, or we have a bad winter where we're having freezing temperatures that have been reaching records. I mean, so the earth goes through cycles and changes just on its own, regardless of what we do.
But then you have, like I said earlier, you've got some weird patterns of weather that go on. You've got some very strange things that happen. And as I mentioned the Bible earlier, in the book of Revelations, it talks about 100-pound hailstones. Think about that a moment. 100-pound hailstones, what something like that would do. But there have been falls of very large hailstones. You know something about that, don't you, Gerald?
Oh yeah.
You got some. I got some pictures here. Here's some big, very large hailstones. Okay, I don't know what size, how much these weigh, but they look like they're about at least a pound a piece. It's very large.
Right.
And here's, I think, another shot. That is some big hailstones.
That picture there that I sent to is actually the jelly goo that falls out of the sky, and they can't explain where it's coming from. People are finding their yards, and actually we found it in our yard one year. It's like a jelly looking substance. We didn't touch it or anything, but it was weird looking.
A lot of weird rains. You've got fish, you've got frogs that have rained on places. You've got flesh. They found pieces of flesh, and they to this day cannot figure out where that came from. You got some very strange falls, they call them. Here, let's take a look at this. This is, I think, fish here.
Yep, that's fish.
Yeah, look at that. That's big fish too. They're not little fish. That's pretty good sized fish. Now, of course, winds could pick that up. You have something like, what do you call that over a lake? It's not a tornado. It's a what?
Water spout.
It's a water spout. Water spout. And a water spout would pick up something like that and deposit it somewhere else. That's probably what happened with this. Something along those same lines. Or higher winds in the atmosphere could also do that very same thing. You have a downburst that would pick up water and fish like that and take it up. Here's another one here. I think this is
that's fish.
You
also
know what that one is? I can't.
Yeah, that's fish.
No, is it?
A different type of fish. Because it happened, it's not like it happens this once or in one location. It happens in other countries and other states in the U.S. And that supposedly was a picture of spiders raining.
Spiders falling from the sky. But now a lot of people, and I've had a lot of problems over the years, girl. People don't know that there are such things as wind spiders. You know what I'm talking about? Wind spiders, and they're kind of small, but they are made to travel on the wind. They go through the air. They travel. They spin they get on their webs and go through. But I've had a lot of people report these things as ghosts that show up on video cameras because they don't know that they're wind spiders and their webs and all that. I've had a lot of that happen over the years. They're kind of easy to spot once you understand what they look like. But a lot of people don't realize you've got things living in this atmosphere around us.
Right.
Of course, you've got airborne things like flies, mosquitoes, and stuff like that.
This picture happened to be from Brazil in 2013, and those weren't little spiders that sail through the wind. These were actually pretty good sized spiders that just fell, and there was there was hundreds of them.
Well, that's kind of like they're very much like flying squirrels. Flying squirrels do not actually fly; they glide. Okay, they've got membranes. They don't have wings. They have membranes, but they can get. It's sort of like skydivers. They kind of glide, on the wind, and that's the way these spiders do with their webs. They do the same thing. It's amazing, but there, I think what you've got here, you've actually had rainfalls of spiders.
Right. Yeah, there was hundreds, if not thousands.
Mm-hmm.
Weird stuff. Can't explain it. I don't know.
That's strange. Let's see what else we got here. What is that? Now
that's another form of
jelly?
like that. That's another form of like that jelly, but this is like an oily raindrops. It wasn't really rain. It really wasn't jelly. It was kind of a mixture of a globular. And it just covered the whole city.
Well, I was telling somebody this the other day, Gerald. It made me think about that when you said that. I was telling somebody this. I might have mentioned it to you not long ago. The rain does not seem to be like it used to be. You used to notice rain on your windshield of your automobile. It would run off. And now it's just sitting there. It doesn't seem to have the same properties that rain used to have. Have you noticed that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you actually have the oil or the rainbow effect, and it won't come off your windshield. And
it's oily. It's kind of oily. But that right there is all definitely. That is very bizarre. Now, where would something like that come from? You wouldn't pick that up, I don't think, unless it was some kind of an oil slick on the water, maybe. That's the only thing I could think of. That's strange. Very strange stuff. You've had a lot. You even had rock falls. It's where rocks have actually fell from the sky. For like I said, frogs. I think there was one of caterpillars. They had a fall of caterpillars. Just about everything you can think of has fell out of the sky one time or another. It's kind of weird. Let's see what else we got here. Hold on a minute. I think I said this. This is the frogs falling. There you go. Frog fall. It's not raining cats and dogs. It's raining frogs. Okay. There you go.
And this picture actually came from Hungary in 2010, where the same thing like the fish and everything we're talking about, it just wasn't a few frogs. It was hundreds of frogs fell in one area.
Oh, yeah. A lot of frogs. Because I've seen pictures. I remember seeing a video. I'm hopping all over the roads and everything. I mean, there were a ton of them. And I have actually seen, I think they were like trying to drive a car through them, and they were running over frogs and awful. And the car was actually hitting the frogs and sliding around. You had a frog slick.
That'd be a mess.
Yeah. Let's see what we got here. Okay, what is that? That's sort of a heat. A fire.
Yeah, they call that a fire spout. It's a fire devil. We have dirt devils, and that's basically what this is where it gets the cycler form of a dirt devil, but there happens to be a fire somewhere in the area, and it sucks up the flames, and it looks like a pillar of fire, just kind of like what the Bible describes in the Exodus.
That's a real firestorm there. I have seen dirt devils. I've seen some big ones in my time. I mean, I have seen some taller than telephone poles. They would pick up trash and stuff real easy. I mean, it's scary looking when you see something like that, even on a small scale. And you could, compare that to what, a tornado would do, or a cyclone. That's a fire cyclone, I guess you would call it. Something similar to that. But you also have water spouts. You have water cyclones. They do the same thing over water. That's amazing. I don't see what we got here.
That is supposedly the pirate's green flash. So right before sun up or sundown, you might see a green flash in the horizon.
The green flash is supposed to happen when there's sunset over the sea, right?
Yep. So they call it the pirate's green flash. It's supposed to have some kind of mystical and ominous feature to it.
It's amazing that they could capture that picture. That had to be a once in a lifetime shot.
Yes. I wonder how long they had to wait for that, or it was by accident, maybe.
Now let's see what we've got here. Are some snowballs, right?
That is actually ice balls that come off of the ocean, and for whatever reason, in this particular location, it doesn't happen everywhere, but it does happen in multiple countries or places that the ocean either turns it or somehow they become in these spherical shapes, and some of them are small and some of them are huge. It's just like beaches just lined with snowballs or ice balls.
Well, I have seen snow rolls. That's where the snow will roll up, and the wind will take snow and roll it. Have you seen that, Gerald?
Yep, I have seen
that.
Those.
That is amazing. That is. That right there is strange, though. That is very strange. You would have so many. Look how many thousands are there. My gosh, and they're big too. They're pretty good size.
Yeah, there's another picture somewhere. I don't know if you got it or not, where there's an adult woman sitting on, looks like giant snowballs.
I think it might have been this one, only a little close up of her or something. I don't know.
Well, that's a little girl. The other one's an adult.
I don't have that one. I don't think. I think I remember. No, here it is. Oh, hold on. Yeah, here you go.
Yep.
Yeah, that's big as bowling balls. Looks like to me, bigger than bowling balls.
Bigger, yeah, bigger than basketballs. Yeah.
Yep.
So for what I saw, it's happened in Michigan even once or twice that they get these, but it doesn't happen every year. So they can't figure out why. Some years you'll have it and other years you won't, or you might not have it for long periods of time, but then all of a sudden they show up.
Well, I got a little video to show everybody here. And this is, now I'm going to explain this a minute. Okay. This is ball lightning. And it's kind of rare, but not real rare. I have actually seen it myself. I don't know if you have, Gerald, but I have actually seen it. It has strange properties to it. But for many, 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 many years, science says that this did not exist. Okay. They said this stuff is not real. Now you're hallucinating or something. And then, but it is, they finally were able to reproduce it in a laboratory, and then they believe it, of course, But until then, they didn't believe what anybody said. But let me show this right quick, if I can get it up.
That's crazy.
That is something else. Yeah. I'm going to replay that again. That is amazing. I just like to enjoy.
I like how it either is
energy.
affected or
People,
it's getting energy out of the electric off of the electric train tracks, and anything that is energized, it seems like it's interacting with.
well, they say that these things have entered people's houses and go in through one wall and go out another wall, and still keep going. So it's wild stuff, but it does truly exist. But I could see why, if you saw something like that, you might kind of think it was supernatural a little bit. And it is natural, but it would be very close to supernatural, wouldn't it, in the way it
Right.
looked? Definitely. Now here is another little video we got here. You might want to explain this one. I think this looks to me like a camera reflection to me. I don't know. What do you think?
Some people have described it as a lens flare or something like that, but then they swear up and down, and this came from China not very long ago. Actually, it's pretty recent that they captured this, and they actually say there was 7 suns, and it's supposedly in prophecy about 7 suns. So I don't know if it was a hoax or made up, but the people that recorded this are saying it's real, and they said a bunch of people saw it. So I don't know.
But if you look at the reflections of it, you see the same cloud repeated over and over again. That's the same cloud in front of that. I believe it's some type of reflection, whether it's in the camera or what, I don't know, but it's some type of reflection to me, because you got the same clouds in front of it. If you look at it, it's the same thing. It's just like the image is reflected. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think it's really that may be what it is. Let's see what this is. This is energy will produce orbs to a certain extent in things. And I think that's what you're looking at there. Don't you think so?
Yeah, that was a volcano going off, and as many people, and you talked about before, that you'll have lightning or energy come out of from the extreme temperatures and the interaction of the volcano erupting. But they just happened to notice those 2 orbs in the middle. And at first they were thinking maybe UFOs or, maybe something extraterrestrial. Then they described them as orbs.
It's
So
amazing.
makes you wonder.
That's a lot of energy coming out of there, definitely. Like I said, see a geothermal type energy. You're going to definitely have some energy output on something like that. That's amazing.
And they were wondering if they were thinking the orbs or the UFOs, whichever you think it is, were maybe there to energize or fill up their spaceships. Maybe they were getting energy and storing up in batteries or however they power their crafts from that field. But I just like the lightning. I thought that was magnificent coming off that volcano while it was erupting.
Beautiful, really. It is. It had sort of a almost supernatural beauty to it. The way it looks, it is amazing.
Then
Getting
we
back
had
to
orbs.
Hellstone, I want to say something about this. There was a report on the internet not long ago of 100-pound hailstones. Supposedly, they even had pictures of people standing next to some of these, and I mean they were huge pieces of hailstones. I don't know if that was true or not. I mean, you see a lot of things on the internet that are not real. You got a lot of AI junk going on out there. But if you even came close to 100-pound hailstones, my gosh, that would be a end of the world kind of a type happening. It would destroy buildings. It would destroy. Not only would it kill you very quickly if it hit you, but it would be destroying cars and houses and all that. I think if there was a 100-pound hellfall anywhere, we'd hear about it. I think that would definitely make the main headline of the news, don't you, Joe?
Oh yeah. I think this is that picture of that jelly, that stuff that's found in people's yards again, what we talked about earlier.
Let me see.
That's some kind of gelatinous gel. Like I said, we had it in our yard for a while. We just played with it, with sticks and stuff and moved it around, and it was creepy looking.
Let me see what I did with that. Hold on. There we go. Here it is right there. You talking about this one?
No. That's the oily that's the oily globs. The other picture you just showed that kind of looks like hail is actually jelly.
Well, that one I got it. That's the hailstone there, right?
Both those pictures are actually jelly stuff in people's yards.
I don't see that. It is a strange kind of. It does kind of look a little bit like jail right there. I mean, to me, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what supposedly it is. It's supposedly a white gel substance. And like I said, me and Jane actually had some of that in our yard one summer, and it's really weird.
Well, have you ever heard of angel hair?
Angel hair, no.
There was supposed to be a strange fall of this substance called angel hair, and it looks like very thin strands of spaghetti. And it's supposed to fall. And there are rumors. I remember hearing about this when I was a kid, many, many years ago. People saw a fall of angel hair, and they said that you could pick it up and trying to keep it, it would just melt and go away. And it was not ice, though. It had other properties of something else. And people were warning other people not to mess with it, not to touch it or anything like that. But it would go away. It was very odd looking, and it would look like hair to a certain extent.
Okay.
I mean, it was thin. It might have been some. What I was just thinking about. I was just thinking about that when you were talking about that. It could have been some kind of gel of some sort, like that. But it sounds very much to me like ectoplasm. You know what ectoplasm is?
Yes.
Remember that?
Yep.
That's supposed to be a spiritual byproduct of spiritual energy. And it supposedly has the properties where it's very insubstantial. It goes away and disappears very quickly. It dissipates. It makes you wonder about that. But here's the thing about the angel hair. I was going to make a quick connection. Supposedly, this would fall after nuclear explosions. And you remember they used to test nuclear weapons certain places in the world. And this supposedly was that. And that's why they would tell people not to touch it and all that stuff, not to mess with it. Or especially not pick it up and handle it or anything like that. Because some people believe this is supposed to be fallout of nuclear type material or something.
Right. Well, we actually had that in our yard. We had that flying. I didn't think it was angel hair though, but me and Jane thought it was like spider webs, but it was this thin, webby looking, long, strangy stuff. It'd stick to our trees, our bushes. It would catch on the grass.
Well, this was white. What color was that?
White. That's why I thought it was spider webs. I thought it was like really, really long, thin. This
could have been some type of spider webs. It could be something like that. I mean, I don't know. It's very strange stuff, but it just went away very quickly. In other words, it didn't. And spider webs don't usually dissipate like that. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe there were.
They don't usually float through the air without any spiders shooting it or flying on it or anything. These were just floating through the air and catching on the trees and the bushes. And
I think I've seen some of that. I mean, I've seen some of that. Now, I don't know if that's the same thing. What I'm saying, I don't know if that's the same thing as the angel hair. I think that was
right. I don't
somewhat
know
different.
either.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of it that we did see that flying through the air, whether it was angel hair or not, or spider webs. I don't know. But it was creepy, though. We didn't touch that either.
I'll have to do some research on that. I just happened to think about that. I hadn't thought about that in a long time. I'll have to do some research on the angel hair and get back to you on that. Because that if there's anything on it, I don't know. I just remember that when I was a boy, hearing about it. Now I could have that messed up in my mind. My memory could be faulty on it. Okay, so I will definitely do some research on that, folks, and get back with you on it. But anyway, I just remember that episode.
There's our good friend Jessica in chat right now, and want to re-congratulate her on her 10,000 subs, Jessica.
No, yeah. Congratulations, Jessica. You deserve that very much. So you're a very hard worker, and we're all proud for you, definitely. Congratulations. That is quite a milestone. Absolutely. Good to have you here tonight. But yeah, I remember that. I have to get back. I have to do some research on that. I think somebody in I think Overbuilt mentioned that, and maybe he's heard of it too. So heard a picture of it in the UK or something. Said the only angel hair I know of is noodles. Crystal said, "Yeah, that's the kind you eat. Yeah,
ramen,
angel hair, from spaghetti." But I just remember that being, from childhood, they said, not to pick it up and handle it. And I always thought it had some kind of nuclear fallout connection thing to it. I don't know if that's true or not. Now, that might have been just rumors that people had connected to it or whatever it may have been. It could have been some type of spider webs of some sort too. That's another thing, I mean, I never saw any of it my own self personally. I don't think I remember seeing any of it, but it could have been something along those lines.
I had never seen it growing
up.
There
are certain funguses that can do that too. The funguses that grow on trees and bushes and stuff like that. The wind could pick up something like that.
Right.
Wind, I'm gonna tell you something about the wind. Okay, the wind is an amazing thing. I have seen the wind do some very strange things. Okay, and heard it do some strange things. The wind is amazing. I've seen pictures where the wind has actually taken pine needles and drive them like nails into telephone poles during tornadoes. Have you seen that, George?
Right. Yeah, I think we went out to my dad's cousin's farm outside of where we live when a tornado went by, and there was pieces of straw embedded in trees. I mean, deep into the trees.
Yeah. It's amazing what the wind can do. Wind, rain, water, those different things. Look what they did to the Grand Canyon. Eventually, over time, it's amazing what nature can do. And we, in our everyday lives, we fail to remember the power of nature. Like the power in, we were talking about that last week about the shroud, the power that it would take to put that image on there was like what I said, 10 million joules. That is a actual power percentage higher than a strike of lightning.
Yeah.
That's a lot of power when you think about it. And where does lightning come from? It doesn't come from the sky, does it, Gerald?
No, supposedly. Well, I've heard, as a kid, we always perceived it coming from the sky, coming down and striking the earth. But then we realized later that it starts from the earth, but it connects. It kind of like meets in the middle. It's like opposite ions that attract each other to create the lightning bolt.
It's coming off the ground. It's coming out of the earth. It's coming off the earth, and it's doing a charge, and it's doing a negative ground thing in the clouds and coming back down. That's what it's doing. It's a static charge, only 10 million joules. That's a lot of power.
If you watch it, you watch it in slow motion, it goes up first before it comes down.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. To me, I've always loved to watch lightning. It is an amazing thing. I call it nature's fireworks. I mean, man cannot make any fireworks that equal that. But a direct lightning hit would reduce you just about to cinder. It has enough power to do that. But I have seen, and I know you have too, Gerald. You've seen, we've seen video of hitting trees and stuff like that. And I mean, It would just obliterate a tree. I mean, huge, big oak trees. Boom, they're gone. I mean, splintered. That is power. And that is power of the earth, my friends. And this planet that we live on has a lot of power to it. It is a living thing. Just like the power inside of you and me, Gerald, we have electrical fields in us. So does the earth,
Absolutely.
And you find out you got electrical fields on a cold day on a carpet when you touch somebody. You find out that electrical field is there.
Well, that's what drives our heart. That's what makes our heart pump is electricity, our own electrical system.
Oh, yeah.
There's a man in the Guinness Book of World Records that got hit by lightning 3 times. And after he passed away of natural causes, his grave got hit by lightning also.
I got a little bit of a touch of lightning strike one time, but it was sort of a secondary thing. It wasn't a direct. Yeah, it was off of a wire close to me. Actually, it burnt an electrical wire. And this is one of those, I'm talking about the big heavy duty outside tie wires. You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
That thing was a big one, and it just snapped, it burnt that thing in 2 instantly. And this was just secondary off of just running along the ground kind of a thing. And I was very close to it. I didn't get I didn't burn or anything like that. But I mean, I felt the charge of it. It was, and that was just very little bit what I was picking up on it. I'm glad I didn't get the full dose. I wouldn't be here probably.
I mean, there's people that whether they got actually hit or like you said, they got the effects of the lightning afterwards. They've lost their vision, they've lost their hearing. Some people have got their hearing back from being struck by lightning. It just plays weird things on the human body.
It's something else. Thank you, Cryptid Huntress. Thank you. You're the best. Okay. You are the best. Thank you. Anyway, you would not definitely want a direct lightning hit anywhere close to you. Absolutely not. It'd be worse than a bomb going off. But that is the power of this planet. And people fail to realize that. And, it's not just that. You've got the wind, you've got volcanoes, you've got earthquakes, you've got a lot of, stuff coming from the earth in that respect. And look at what hurricanes. I had a friend who actually went to Florida after the last hurricane that was down there, that hit down there. And he was, he worked for the government, FEMA. And he was telling me that, these waters, the winds would take ships out of the ocean and set them on the beach and set them up on the boardwalks. He said it's just like somebody would have picked them up with a crane and put them on there.
Right.
It was amazing. And he had to do like a lot of assessments and all that for the stuff that went on. And he was talking about, anyway, some of the ships would be damaged, but some of them were not. It just depended. It's just like a big giant hand would pick them up and set them over there. It was amazing to think about. That is power, folks. I mean, you're talking about 2 or 3 ton ships being picked up and moved. That is something to think about. Absolutely. You got to respect something like that, Gerald.
Oh,
Nature
absolutely.
like that kind of force, that take you out of here in a minute, you know?
Yep. Every aspect of weather is dangerous, whether it's flood water or, like you said, wind, tornadoes, water spouts, dirt devils.
There's a lot of superstition about dirt devils. By the way, just made me think about that. There's a lot of people believe they're demon winds, or that's a demon in the wind. That's why they got the name dirt devil. They're supposed to be bad. And then, of course, you have a lot of supposed devil winds in the world, like the Santa Ana winds in California. They say those make people nervous and keep them from sleeping well.
Right.
You have the the Sirocco wind in the Sahara that blows. And the Sirocco actually used to would bring certain insects on the wind that caused a lot of crop damage and stuff like that. You had, of course, you had infestation of grasshoppers and locusts that were brought about by what? The wind. The wind
Right.
moved these things. You got a lot of bad juju going on with the weather and stuff like that, out there. And of course, like we said earlier, that picture, actually, animals that are picked up out of the water and deposited on land by these things. They have actually been sharks supposedly found from water spouts and pulling them out of the water and putting them on the beach. So it's not even safe on the beach, okay, folks? Look out for sharks on the beach.
Yeah, land
Uh,
sharks. What's next?
yeah, there you go. Uh, so you better keep an eye on the weather wherever you're at and whatever you're doing. Okay, that's my
Oh,
warning to you. Don't ever underestimate the weather. It might be the last thing you ever do. I always watch. I always watch at storms, and I always, weather warnings, tornado warnings, and all that. It's wise to listen to that and not disregard it. Absolutely. And there are certain things you can do to protect yourself in situations like that. Of course, you never stay up under a tall tree during a lightning storm. Okay, that's not a good idea either. Uh, and of course, the lowest place you can get is best, whether it be wind, tornadoes, lightning, whatever the situation. The best place, if you have to, get down in the bottom of a ditch and get down. The lower you are, the better off you are in that respect. And you cannot
yep.
outrun these things. A lot of people, Gerald, think you can outrun these. And I got some friends who are who are storm chasers. Okay, and you cannot outrun some of these things in automobiles and stuff. You have to be very careful how you do this stuff. It can be they have actually told me they have seen tornadoes turn on a dime and
Right.
go the way they didn't predict them to go. They're very, very unpredictable. You can't predict these things. You got to be very, very careful with them.
Absolutely.
So pay heed if they say that there's a warning out. They're doing that for your own safety. So take heed to it and do the things to protect yourself or what you need to do. And don't disregard it because it's very serious stuff. It could be a matter of life and death, your life and death, if you don't listen. I have been on. I've never actually. I've been very close to tornadoes, several of them. I've seen the damage that they can do. Even the microbursts can be bad enough, but then that's just a little small part of a tornadic type thing or tornadic winds. Even microbursts are bad enough, but they can do some wild, freaky stuff.
Yep. I've seen two
Red sky at night,
tornadoes.
sailors delight. Red sky morning, sailors warning.
I've seen two tornadoes in my life, and the one was my dad's cousin farm that we were talking about that we went out to help. But we were called early enough where Dad packed us up in the old station wagon as we were kids and took us out there far enough away to be able to see it go across the farm. And then when I was in high school, me and my friends went out riding in the country, and we just happened to come across the storm and saw the tornado go across the fields.
You imagine what a category 4 or 5 tornado would do, you know?
Oh, wow.
And I remember that where I think it was in Texas. Well, this family, they had, they had a basement, and they went down in the basement during a tornado. And the guy in the basement, he had a radio, and he called his friend after it was over. And I think he had like 2 or 3 little kids and his wife, They were down in the basement, and he asked his friend, he said, is there anything left? He said, no, come on out. There ain't nothing left. When he come out of the basement, there was no house at all. Nothing
Wow.
left.
It
But
is
now
amazing.
there was a where I live, we used to get a lot of the tornadoes out of Georgia. They would come up the corridor, like they call it Tornado Alley here. And would come across in the lake. Now there's a lake there now. There didn't used to be. I think the lake the water tends to knock a lot of that off now. Okay. But you still got that Tornado Alley type thing going on. But this was back years before I was born. But there was a tornado came through this town, and this is a true story. What I'm about to tell you, and this woman, she was working in a cotton mill, and that day she said that my father was there that day this happened. He's the one who told me this story, and he worked with this woman in the spinning room of the cotton mill, and she was a very, very devout Christian woman. He said that day, he said all of a sudden it just turned dark. It turned night. It was in the middle of the day, but it just turned like midnight. And said that woman got down on her knees in the frames of the spinning room there and started praying. But she had 2 little kids at home. And she got down on her knees and started praying for the safety of those little kids. And said that when the storm was over, when the tornado passed through it tore this town up. I mean, it was. And here's the interesting thing, Gerald, would like skip house to house. It was just like it was jumping all over the place. Well, when they got back to her house was gone, except in the very center of the house, one closet was left, and those 2 little kids were in that closet completely unharmed. They stepped out of that closet unharmed. That was a prayer answered, definitely, without a doubt, because that house was gone except for that closet. And that's a true story.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say before you started your story, I'm just amazed on how tornadoes will go through a neighborhood or a town and leave certain buildings and might take the neighbor's building, and one's totally destructed and the other one's nothing harm to it at all. And same thing with wildfires. It seems like it just skips around, and you think it'd be take out the whole thing and there'll be one house that isn't affected at all.
And that's a big thing out in California, a lot of the wildfires they have out there. That is another aspect of the weather. They can start naturally sometimes. A lightning strike can start a wildfire. A lot of times, unfortunately, it's people being stupid that start. That's just the way that goes. But it can be a natural thing too, and it can go through. And a lot of times nature has wildfires to clean land off and to get forests to revitalize. It is a part of nature, that does that. But unfortunately, nature doesn't take into account people's houses. They might be on some of that property. That's just the way that goes. But then you have in places like California, you got the mudslides. You got the rainstorms that create the mudslides, and people's houses float off down into the mud and the canyons down to the ocean. I've seen that happen. Yeah. And of course, you have flash floods. That's part of that as well.
Absolutely.
Just like you have avalanches of snow and ice. You have that happen. So that this world that we live on is constantly moving, living thing. And you got to remember that definitely, because you might be around when it moves on you sometime.
I'll tell you the weirdest thing that happened to me that involved the fire was I was in a drive-through like McDonald's, and they had their flower beds or whatever all decorated. They had a mulch and stuff out there. Well, they just put down that mulch, and while I was in line, a fire started in that mulch. Now, it wasn't anybody flicked a cigarette or whatever, but it was extremely hot that day, and the sun was bearing down on it. So I think it was either treated with chemicals or they sprayed something on it, and it had fumes, and the heat just exploded. It just became flammable. We all had to leave. We all had to get out of we had to all move our cars, and they evacuated the restaurant. It was on fire.
I've actually seen fires, house fires, where the roofing tiles would melt and drip off the house like water. Yeah. It's amazing what fire and stuff like that can do. And like I said, it's like that movie Backdraft.
Oh, yeah.
It's unpredictable stuff. You can get caught in a bad situation very quickly. Especially when it's sucking all the air out of wherever you're at.
Yeah.
Because fire has to have air to breathe. It has to have air to fuel it. You might be in a bad place.
Sitting there back building until you open up and give it that source of oxygen, and then it explodes.
Let's see. Catherine says some tornado survivors have seen the butterfly people after praying for protection. I've actually, Jessica and I did a show about that, the butterfly people thing, and I believe they were angels. Actually, I think that's what they were seeing, because the little kids described them as butterflies.
Right.
People, I think they might have been seeing angelic beings, definitely. But that was an interesting show that we did on that, and I won't tell you what. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of superstition and legend attached to storms and stuff being, supernatural or paranormal type things that go on during storms. People have actually said, and I've seen some very interesting pictures on it, that they have seen faces in storms and storm clouds and stuff like that. I'm sure you have too, Joe.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you always hear about, they talk about when a town is hit or whatever, and they talk about the wrath of God, or maybe the town was sinful, or, I mean, we've had that all the way through biblical times, all the way to Sodom and Gomorrah, but
yeah,
maybe there's some truth to that, but weather is just unpredictable. You just never know.
Well, of course, that if you go to the site of Sodom and Gomorrah to this day, you will find pieces of sulfur, or brimstone is the old name for it is. You'll find, and it's not supposed to be there, by the way. It's not a geological thing. That sulfur is not supposed to be there. Where did it come from? But that's the legend of Sodom and Gomorrah. Rain, fire and brimstone. That's a weather thing too. If you got a fall of fire and brimstone, because that happened too. I think back with a guy named Pharaoh in Egypt one time.
Yeah, there's all kinds of weather events in the Bible. I mean, the splitting of the Red Sea, the fire and brimstone, the locusts, the plague,
the very large hailstones in Egypt too. Remember that?
Yep. And the pillar of fire that guided them through the desert.
Mm-hmm. And of course, another interesting weather phenomenon, the days of darkness. That they had a darkness that came over Egypt, supposedly. Right. And we were talking about that the other day. A lot of scientists, of course, don't believe that, because the longest eclipse supposedly ever had was like 7 minutes or something like that. You're talking about supernatural type things that last for 2 or 3 hours at a time. Supposedly when Jesus died on the cross, there was like a 3 hours of darkness or something that went on. But it was something out of the ordinary. It wasn't something, I don't think, that can be explained naturally. But anyway, that is another aspect. And like we talked about that summer without one year without summer, you had a darkness over the land, and I think there was one day, and to this day they don't know what happened. But I think it was back in the 17th century. They had a day when the sun didn't come up, supposedly. Now, of course, it probably did, but it just looked like it didn't come up. But it was so dark that day, people thought it was the end of the world. And this could have been explained by a volcanic ash cloud, okay?
Right.
But they thought it was the end of the world. They said that people had to go around with torches in the middle of the day. That's how dark it was. And then they said it got cold, and the cows, horses, and chickens went to roost. The cows went in the barn. They thought it was night at noon.
Yep.
So you got some weird, strange weather phenomena out there. Something going on like that.
I mean, that happens to us, like during the eclipses. Our chickens will go inside and get ready for bed. Then all of a sudden the sun will pop back out, and it's like, oh, wait. Then they come back out.
Mm-hmm. Animals don't know any difference. They just know, the time appears to be what they think it is. It's amazing, but it's like my grandmother used to say about the chickens. They know when it's getting. They know. Now, if you'll watch a chicken real close, they know before the sun starts setting that it's getting close to time for them to get roost, and they'll start looking around for somewhere to get, the usual place that they go to roost, whether it's your porch or wherever it is they got,
Right.
or if you got a coop or whatever. They start. They. It's almost as if they have an internal clock going on. It's weird, but that's it. And even the wild birds are the same way. If you watch birds, and I've been a bird watcher for a long time. I enjoy watching birds. It's fascinating to watch. They have, I believe, they have their own way of communicating. They have their own little civilization, in many aspects. But if you watch birds during the day, they have a certain amount of time, like from when they wake up till very close to roosting time. They will feed. They'll go around, feed or communicate or do what they do with other birds, and maybe mate or whatever they're doing. But there will come a certain part of the day, and you could tell this by your watch almost, okay, that they start settling down, and they start less and less looking for the food and looking more for nesting or where it is they're going. And it's almost as if they have built-in eternal clocks in them. It's amazing.
Right.
Nature will tell you things, and that's what I've told a lot of people about, especially with cryptid hunting and stuff like this. When you're out in the wild, be aware of what's going on around you. Watch the birds. Watch the ants. Watch what's going on around you. They will tell you stuff.
Right. Yeah, like you see animals leaving a forest or running. It's like, okay, you need to pay attention because they're leaving their natural habitat for a reason.
Oh yeah, animals have a lot more sense than people think they do.
We have a certain time of year, and I don't know why, but we'll have cardinals come in at dusk normally. Like a pair of cardinals, a mate. But one time every summer, it seems like we'll have 20 or more cardinals show up right before dusk, and they'll hang out and feed, and then they won't come back the next day.
Well, even, if you watch the cows and horses and stuff like that, they know when it's getting towards sundown. You know what I'm saying? If you'll watch them, the way they act. And I have seen deer do that as well.
Right.
Very much like that. You just watch and pay attention. They can tell you a whole lot of things. It's almost like reading a book. if you're really attentive to what's going on.
Yep. And just last week we had 2 or 3 days of dragonflies come into our backyard from the cornfield, and there was like 100 of them, Dennis. I mean, they were just flying all over our backyard, and it only happens every summer for a couple days. Oh, I agree with Catherine. We need to do a show of Jessica and rehatch that butterfly.
Oh yeah, that would be interesting. There's a part 2 on that. I think the sun stood still in the midst of the heavens and not hasten to go down for about a whole day. Yeah, that's in the Bible. Yeah. Uh, there are a lot of strange incidences of time and stuff that are recorded in that as well. I know there was one scene, I can't remember exactly where in the Bible, but God gave a sign to one of the prophets and said, and there was a temple like, and whenever the shadow of the sun fell down the steps, they could tell what time it was. And God said, gave a prophecy out, said, if this is not true, then the sun will retreat back 3 steps up the and it
Right.
did. The sun actually went back 3 steps. And I think somebody once recorded about all the stuff in the Bible that you come out like there's a whole day and a half missing out of recorded time or something like that. But you have some very strange incidences in the Bible about stuff like that. Absolutely. I think it was at the Battle of Jericho that the sun supposedly stood still for a while, or something like that. But like I say, and there are a lot of meteorological stuff in the Bible and some of the old ancient books that talk about like this. Because, like I say, people have always been interested in the weather because the weather was very important. It could make you, break you, live or die, kind of thing. Especially if
Absolutely.
you put to sea in a ship, in ships, you had to know what was going on. Might encounter a storm, whatever. You had to watch and be very careful. And so the weather to this day is very important to us. It is part of our atmosphere. It's part of us. It's part of our lives. Whether we acknowledge it or not, it's there, and you can't forget it. So it's very important that we always keep what you're on eye on the weather.
That's right. Just like Jessica says, keep your head on a swivel.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. But we need to be very careful and be always aware of what's going on around us and things like that because it's very important. Just like I said about the birds and the animals, you keep an eye on stuff. I've watched stuff like that my whole life. I've enjoyed. I love to watch ants, the things that they do, and bees. I've always know I never got into it, but that would be a fascinating hobby to have to keep bees. That would be very interesting. Yeah, you want to
Right.
think about that, Gerald? Maybe get you a beehive going there.
We have some friends that have beehives, and I grew up. Our pastor growing up had a beehive, so I was around there all the time.
Mm-hmm. My grandfather had a beehive many, many years ago. He had about, I think, 2 or 3 bee. He was real big into beekeeping. And I was just a little boy. I was probably about 5 years old. And I went down there and knocked on one of the beehives one day. And I ended up getting stung about 200 or 300 times.
Oh
And
man.
literally, I mean, my eyes closed shut. I was stung so many times. And to this day, bee stings don't bother me anymore. I think I got enough bee venom. It doesn't bother me. I get stung every now and then, and it's nothing to me. I tell you what, though, some of the things that can sting you out there can really hurt, like a bumblebees. Some of those, the regular, they're not the regular bumble. I think the other bumblebees that actually don't have much of a stinger. But now there is what they call the carpenter bees. They can sting you really good too. They're the ones that drill holes in wood,
Right.
and put their nest in it. They can actually destroy your windows. They love to get up under windowsills and drill holes in that, but they can really compromise the wood really quick. They're almost like a giant termite. Well, thank you, Cryptid Hunters. I'll put that up there. That's the website from our website. And Damien says I get stung at least twice a year every year. Oh yeah, they get me. Yellow jackets can hurt pretty bad too. How about that, Gerald?
All right. Any
Yellow
kind
jackets.
of wasp.
They don't swell up; they just hurt. They don't swell you like a hornet. Now hornets can really stick it to you too. I'll tell you what, I don't know if I'm going to tell you this, but I found out a trick one time, and this has been years and years ago. Okay, and my nephew was with me when I did this one day. We found out I've been probably watching Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom or something like that. Okay, and I found out that you can, if you mess with a hornet's nest, if you remain absolutely still, they will think you're just a tree or a bush. They don't know any better. But if you move, that's when they'll come after you. Okay. So I went with me and my nephew was out in the woods one day. Went to a big old hornet nest out there. And I said, okay, now we're gonna stand here. We don't want to move. Okay, do not move no matter what happens. So I hit it with a rock. Oh, they come out. I mean, the air was black with them. But we stood completely still. Okay, and unfortunately, Gerald, one of them little suckers was smarter. You always got a real smart one in the group. He was smarter than the rest of them. He lit on my hand right down there, and he stung me about 3 times. But I couldn't move, because if I'd have moved, it'd have been all over me. That would have been it.
Right.
So I had to stand there and take it.
Oh, my.
But you always got one smart one in the crowd. You know what I'm saying? But I said that was a stupid thing to do. I never did that again. I said it was just stupid because I probably could have next time would run up on some smart hornets. That would work well. So do not do that, folks. Okay, do not. This is for entertainment purposes only. Okay, do not do that. But I found out the hard way. You always got some smart. You got some smart hornets out there. Absolutely. There's the Midwest Night Watchers there. Thank you, Cryptid
Thank you,
Hunters.
Jessica.
Jessica says I got stung on my eyelid as a kid. Oh yeah, I did. That happened to me. I tell you what, Jessica, one time I got a doggone yellow jacket lit on my lip right here, top lip, and stung me. You talk about hurting.
Oh my.
And like I say, it didn't swell up that much. It just hurt. Those yellow jackets can be rough. Absolutely. And what's the bad thing about it is a lot of the yellow jacket nests are holes in the ground. You run over one on a lawnmower or something, you'll know about it real quick. I've had that happen. Yeah, I've had that happen real quick. Well, my grandmother told me a trick. I don't know if you people out there know this or not. And of course, this goes with beehives too. After sundown, they don't fly. That's it. Hornets, yellow jackets, bees do not fly after sundown. Okay. Probably they don't have night vision. Okay. They just don't. So if you want to get rid of a nest, you do it at night. Because they're all in the nest. You can like pour kerosene in it or whatever. Get rid of them. Okay. Right. But you got to wait till sundown. But here's the thing about it. Even with the nest, and this goes with beehives, you always got guards. They have a guard that guards the hole. There's one. And here's the real interesting thing about beehives. In a hot summer, on a hot summer day, there are some bees whose job is to stand backward in the hole in the front. You got 2 entrances, in and out, okay? They'll stand on the end and do their wings, and then some stand on the out and do their wings pointed outwards. They got natural air conditioning going in that hive.
Yeah. Wow.
It's amazing what bees and stuff like that can do. But the Bible calls the bees a nation and the ants are people. And of course, ants take slaves. They have wars. It's amazing. It's amazing to watch things. What goes on around you.
And they have an army of ants.
Yeah, the bees are amazing to watch. They're very interesting. I like bees. Like I say, that would have to be a fascinating hobby. And you can smoke bees. You can actually do things with smoking them, and that does something. Hey, it does their GPS type haywire on them. Again, they can't fly good when you smoke them.
Right.
And
Kind of makes them dormant.
yeah. Yep. So for the thickest swamp bees pass through us, I instantly lay on the ground. Yeah, that's a good idea to do that. If you ever run into a swarm, remain still. They'll think you just a tree or a bush, as long as you don't move. But you can't outrun them suckers. Once they get after you, that's it. They'll find you no matter where you go.
Yeah.
I've been stung by everything. Scorpions. I've been snake bit. Wow. I've been bit. Everything's attacked me at one time or another. I'm just a good target, I reckon.
Must taste good. I've been bit by animals, but I've never been stung by a scorpion or bit by a snake or anything like that.
I got bit by a copperhead, but I was very lucky. I moved very quickly, and he just barely hit me. Oh. He didn't get a chance to really, bite me good. But he left 2 holes on it, but it didn't swell up or anything like. But I was very lucky. I moved very quickly. But he was a small copperhead, about maybe a foot long. Oh, baby! But they can still get you when they're babies too. By the way, they still got them. The baby's got just as much poison as the full grown one. Just about okay. But one thing I never wanted to get bit by was either a black widow or a brown recluse. You definitely don't want to mess with that. But I just happened to reach down in the grass. I thought it was a worm when I first saw it. I reached down in the grass. I was pulling up some grass, and I saw it. I thought when I first saw it was a worm, and I said, I immediately said, "Oh, that's a snake," I jerked my hand back. By the time I did, that's when it hit me. If I hadn't have done it that quick, it would have got me.
Wow.
You never know. You never know. What's he going to run up on? Shiro says, touching stinging nettle plant feels like a bee sting. Yeah, it does.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why it's called a stinging nettle. It does feel like a sting.
We have that in our yard. Some of our behind our shop, we have elderberries and stuff growing back there, and we'll get stinging nettle back there. And you think I'd learn by now, but I get stung by it every time.
Mm-hmm. Jessica and I did a show on the mandrakes and some of these other plant things and how they're associated with paranormal stuff and all that. And I was talking about the hog plant. You ever heard of that?
No.
The hog plant, and it grows up about where you're at, so be very careful. You have to suit up like going like a moonwalk to deal with this plant. This thing was bad news. It's like an acid. It gets on your skin. This stuff can kill you. And it's called a hog plant, like a hog.
Never heard of it.
It's called a hog. Look it up because you definitely do not want to mess with this thing. And they say if you find this growing on your property, to call them. They will come out and eradicate it for you, but you're not supposed to mess with it yourself because even breathing around this thing, can get in your lungs and kill you.
Wow.
So this stuff is bad. It's called a hog plant. And it looks a little bit, the leaves on it look a little bit like the fig tree leaves. A little bit. But look it up. You'll find out about it. It's and I think it grows up around your area.
Oh my! I've never heard of it.
Yeah, this bad stuff. There's a lot of, but I know you've seen angel trumpet plants, right?
Yes. Right.
Those things are deadly poison. Do you know they're a bad hallucinogenic? You can't even get the sap on your skin. It will almost kill you. Do not mess with trumpet flower plants. And you know what they breed and get them from? You know what a loco weed is?
I've heard of loco weed, yes.
Jimson weed. You know what I'm talking about? Yep. That's what they get angel trumpet plants out of. They breed them out of there. They're bad stuff, and you're not even supposed to get the sap of this stuff on your skin.
There's all kinds of stuff out there, like morning glory, and I mean, all kinds of poisonous stuff out. They look pretty.
Mm-hmm. It looks pretty, but don't mess. Looks can be deceiving. Absolutely.
Oh my.
Yeah. Poison ivy. Now, I've never been one that's been. I mean, I might could smear it on me and get it on me, but I have actually rolled in it, pulled it up, and it's never really bothered me. But some people can't even burn it. Even the sap burn off of it will get on them. Some people are very highly allergic to it.
Yeah, as much as I've ever been in the woods hunting and mushroom hunting and just exploring, I've never ever got poison ivy, and I've never really paid attention or looked for it. I just go wherever I want to go and don't worry about it.
Yeah, honey is amazing, by the way, when we're talking about bees. Honey is one of the foods that will last for thousands of years. They have actually found thousands of year old honey in Egyptian tombs that was still edible. Think about that.
Right.
When Alexander the Great was buried, they put him in a golden sarcophagus and filled it with honey. And his body was, like around for hundreds of years after that. It's a preservative. It's amazing honey that what bees can make something else. Poison oak. Yeah, poison oak is bad. This is one of my backyard. Hollywood, Florida, most beautiful flower produces belladonna. Belladonna's bad stuff too. Belladonna's a witchcraft plant. Absolutely. Belladonna and nightshade.
Nightshade.
The interesting thing, Gerald, I don't know if you know this or not. You can eat the potato, but you better not eat its flower. It will kill you.
There's
the flower of the potato is
there's lots of stuff like that, like dandelions, that you can pick off the flower of the dandelion and fry it up and eat it, but you can't eat the greens. I mean, there's pokeberry, same kind of way. And
yep, pokeberries will kill you real good. Now you can actually take the poke salad plant, the part of the plant, and cook it and eat it. I've eaten a lot of it in my time. It's a delicacy in the South. Poke salad is good, but you got to parboil it. You know what that means, don't you? You got to boil it 3 times.
Yep.
To get the poison.
Yep. You got to change out the water and get fresh water every time.
Mm-hmm. Hey, you have to boil it. Pour all the water off of it, boil it again, pour all the water, and do it. It's really, to do it a 3rd time is a good idea. You can't get away with it doing it twice, but my grandmother always says she done it 3 times just to make sure. But you parboil it, and that takes all that. But you definitely would never eat the berries on it. No. But here's the weird thing: birds can eat them all day long and don't bother them.
I've seen some videos where people say that you can eat them depending on how and when you pick them.
It depends, I think, if they get ripe or something, somehow or another. I've heard that. I never tried. I never wanted to attempt it.
I just don't take a chance on it.
Nope. But there are other things now. Like I have in my backyard. I have a mulberry bush. I have a mulberry tree. You can eat them. Make tea out of them, pies and all that. Certain things you can eat out there, of course, like persimmons. But you can't eat them until they get ripe. Now, if you eat them before they get ripe, draw your mouth up. They're kind of hard. Very much kind of like eating a lemon. You can't eat a lemon. You can taste it. You can put it in your coffee or whatever, but you can't just sit down and eat it. I wouldn't advise it. It's kind of like the monkey that peeled a banana. Some monkeys don't even bother to do that. They just eat the banana. Ugh.
Yep. Peel and all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, persimmons, May apples, yes, when ripe, they're edible. Unripe, they will kill you. Yeah, May apples, yeah, I remember those. Yeah, they're kin to the nightshade too. A lot of these plants are kin. They're sort of like cousins to them. You have to be very careful what you're eating out there. I used to like that guy used to come on TV, you old Gibbons. Remember him, girl?
Yep. Grape nuts commercial.
That man, he could eat pine cones. That man could do anything. He was smart, buddy. Real smart guy.
I like pine nuts. Pine nuts are really good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He used to advertise grape nuts, right? Didn't he have a commercial for grape nuts? Yeah, that was it.
Right.
Yeah. Honey is one of the jewels of the earth. Amazing properties. Yeah, honey is amazing stuff. And like I say, it's practically indestructible.
Honey is the original nectar of God.
You can eat the pine tree under the bark. Yeah, I've heard of that too. Some parts of the pine tree I advise you not to put in your mouth. It can be sort of acidic.
Well, they say pine needle tea is real good for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can make pine needle tea. I've heard people do that. Yeah, but the sap, some of the sap off the pine tree, no, you don't mess with that. But now maple syrup, that's where you get maple. You get it from maple trees.
Right.
But anyway, all of these things are affected by what? The weather. Okay.
The weather.
That's where the connection is. Okay, folks. All this stuff is connected to the weather, and that's the important thing. So we got to keep our eyes on the weather. Absolutely. The banana actually is waste. All the nutrients are in the banana peel. Yeah, but try to eat that peel. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. But I think there's I saw that. You can actually put banana peels in water and steep them for like a couple of weeks and pour it on your plants, and it gives them more nutrients and everything. It's supposed to be good plant food.
Really good for tomato plants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's supposed to be very good plant food of some sort for them. Yeah.
And I know a lot of people don't like it this way, but my aunt used to wait till the banana was almost black and eat it, because then all the nutrients left the peel and went into the fruit.
Oh yeah, and you get them very ripe like that. You can plant them and grow banana trees out of them very easy too. Yeah, but you cannot get the seed out of the banana. You got to plant the whole banana. That's the way that goes. But you take a look at the strawberry. Strawberry is nothing but one big seed.
Yeah.
You ever notice that?
Yep.
It's not really a berry. It's a seed. It's one big seed, though. There you go.
Now I crack open the nut or the seed of peaches and apricots, and I eat the inner core, the seed, the nut of the seed, as in the Bible says, and I eat that.
I grew an avocado tree one time from an avocado thing. They're easy to do. You need to transfer them though pretty quickly. When they get kind of about like a foot high, you need to get them in the ground because they won't last long. I mean, they don't live good in a container. You need to get them in the ground, But you can grow them pretty easy. You can grow anything like that if you take care of it, do it the right way. You can grow peaches from the pits, grow bananas and apples. Get them started, but you got to know when to transfer them.
Right.
That's the main thing. And Damien says, bees are my buddies, just got to deal with each other. Yeah, well, bees are very important. Without bees, we don't get stuff pollinated. Bees are very, very important. Absolutely. I like bees. I like the fact that usually they can only sting you one time, and that's the par for the course. But except unless they're African killer bees, they can sting you all they want.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, bees are amazing. I mean, for their body weight and as big as they are, you wouldn't be able to fly, but yet they do.
That's what they used to say about the bumblebee. Science says that due to the size ratio and wing length, the bumblebee should not be able to fly. But nobody told the bumblebee that.
Yep.
Yeah, bees are very important, Crystal says. I love that they make honey too. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And then, of course, you have a royal jelly. That's supposed to be even better, really. The royal jelly. Got the queen bees. Oh, I ain't
Wow.
fan wasps. I don't stand them nasty looking things. Oh, wasps. Yeah, wasps can be bad. I don't like them. They kind of fly dainty, but they pack a powerful punch too. They can sting you real good. Wasps. WASP used to stand for White Anglo-Saxon Protestants.
Yep.
Wasp, yeah. Well, it's been an interesting show tonight, folks. All about weather. Boy, I think we covered some interesting aspects of it. What's your final thoughts on that, Gerald?
Well, to me, weather is amazing, but just like we said, be careful, pay attention to the signs of the weather. It's unpredictable, and you can tell a lot by what's going on in the skies and what's going around in your surroundings.
Yep. Stay aware. Be aware of what's going on around you, especially when it comes to the weather. And if you get warnings, please heed those warnings because they're trying to tell you something. Definitely. So you need to be very careful on how you deal with that. Absolutely. And the weather is very important. It's very important to us in many aspects, not just our safety, but our well-being as well. So, we want to, keep an eye on that definitely. Overbill says he just brought in dinner. Thank God it's in a sealed glass container. The cat decided he needed to eat it and is licking the lid, but not have. Watch that cat there. Okay. Keep your eye on that cat. Sounds like he's kind of hungry. Brown Dwarf says a heat wave this week. Yeah, it's been. We're not done with summer yet. Not a long shot. We got some hot weather left to go, I'm sure. But there is a little. You can tell there's a little bit of a change going on. You're starting.
Yep.
The mornings are a little bit cooler.
We are getting cooler here where we live too.
Mm-hmm. Old man Summer ain't left town yet, though. He will eventually. Absolutely. Well, it's been a very interesting evening. Once again, we want to congratulate our good friend Jessica, the Cryptid Huntress.
Yeah, congratulations.
For her 10,000 subscribers. A tremendous day, and we definitely want to congratulate on that. And check out her store, War Woman Goods. She has some beautiful stuff. And while you're shopping, you might want to stop by Mr. Gerald Fountain's store. He's got a store. Tell them a little bit what you got in there, Gerald. You got hats. You got what? What all you got?
Oh, we got sweatshirts and hats and T-shirts and coffee cups, and you can get a wine tumbler that's made out of stainless steel. And we have a stainless steel water bottle, and we have other products. We're going to be adding more as time goes on, but you can get it in the Night Owl Lounge logo or the Midwest Night Watchers logo, or even Chiro Sounds logo. If you like her woof and Razor Vibrations on a t-shirt or sweatshirt, check her logo out.
All right. I'm going to put that up right now for everybody to see. There's a link. There it is. Check it out. Absolutely. That's the Mindwear Apparel. Huh? Okay.
Yep.
You want to check that out. I like that water bottle. That's what I got mine. I'm going to have to get one of those. I don't know what I need with it, but I like it.
You can't go wrong with stainless steel. It'll last forever.
That sounds kind of like a woman. I've been shopping with women. I don't need that, but I want it. Okay. That's the way it goes. All right. Yeah. Check that out, Crystal. Check it out. And well, appreciate you all being here tonight, and for our latest journey down the road less traveled.
Yep.
And we had to
So
take
you
some
can-
umbrellas with us this time.
so
But,
you
oh,
can
there you go. There's a cup.
You can get
I like
coffee
that. Oh,
coffee cups like this.
That's a big one too, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the biggest one.
Yeah, I like the big ones. I don't like the little ones. You
Yeah,
can't get no
glare.
coffee in them. You know.
But you can get there's 3 different sizes you can get in coffee cups.
I like the big coffee cups because the little ones just get me started good. You know what I mean? Yeah, a hell of a lot there. Definitely. I'm too lazy to get up and keep filling my cup back up. So there you go. I like the big ones. I tell you, I even have one that I even use like cooked beans or something in. You don't have to just drink coffee in them, folks. You can actually put them in the microwave and cook stuff in them, like soup or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good for tea, good for coffee, any hot beverage, any cold beverage.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Well, it's been a good show. We appreciate you all being here tonight. Watch out for the weather where you're at, okay? Don't get under the weather. And
Especially
stay on top of the weather. That's the main
Especially
thing.
there's snakes, frogs, and spiders falling.
Yeah,
Don't go out.
Where's my umbrella? Okay. Yeah, definitely. Watch out for those weird weather falls out there. Absolutely. Well, appreciate you all being here tonight, and we'll look forward to next time we go down the road less traveled. Wednesday night, you want to check out. I'll be here with Hunting the Shadows. That'll be 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Friday night, that will be Paranormal Point of View at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Gerald, when's your show?
Well, Wednesday night, we're right after you at 10 p.m. Central, or just right after your show. We got the Night Owl Lounge. And then Sunday we have Piercing the Veil, our normal show with guests every Sunday.
There's your link right there. And check it out. And patronize those people, please. And there you go. And
thank you.
We will definitely catch up with you then, Joe. Absolutely. God bless everyone. Watch out for Randy. Sasquatch girl in the woods is getting real rutting season. Oh yeah, watch out for those Sasquatch out there. They're part of the weather too, okay? Absolutely. And appreciate you all being here tonight, and we will look forward to when we get together again. Until we do, remember, the road less traveled is waiting for you. And we will see you next time.
Night, everybody.
Godspeed.